I found my dad's love letters, but they weren't for my mom. They were hidden in a dusty old box in the attic, tucked behind Christmas decorations and forgotten photo albums, like some secret waiting to be uncovered. I was 22, home from college for the summer, just trying to help my parents clean out the clutter in our old Ohio house. I wasn't looking for trouble, just sorting through boxes to pass the time. But when I opened that plain cardboard box, no label, shoved behind a broken lamp, my whole world tilted. Inside was a stack of envelopes, tied with a faded red ribbon, each one covered in my dad's unmistakable handwriting, those loopy GS and sharp TS I'd seen on every birthday card since I was a kid. But the words inside? They were raw, passionate, desperate. Words like "I can't stop thinking about you" and "you're my reason to breathe." My stomach churned as I read the name at the top, Eliza. Not my mom's name. Not even close. My hand shook as I held the first letter, my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. Who was Eliza? Why had my dad, the guy who coached my little league games, who kissed my mom every morning before work, written these? Was he cheating? Had he always been? My mind spiraled, picturing my family, my mom's warm laugh, our Sunday dinners, the way they'd dance in the kitchen to old jazz records, crumbling like a house of cards. I wanted to burn the letters, pretend I'd never seen them, shove them back into the dark where they belonged. But I couldn't stop reading. Each one pulled me deeper into a secret I wasn't supposed to know, a secret that felt like it could unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. What would you do if you found out your hero wasn't who you thought? Would you keep it secret, protect the life you know, protect the people you love? Or would you dig, even if it meant breaking everything? I didn't know it then, but those letters were about to turn my world upside down, make me question love, loyalty, and the truth. Stick around, because this story? It's not what you think. Let me take you back to that summer, to the moment everything changed. I'm Riley, 22, just another college kid trying to survive finals and figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, in a house that always smelled like my mom's lavender candles, the kind that made you feel safe just breathing them in. My parents were the kind of couple everyone envied, high school sweethearts, married for 25 years, still holding hands at the grocery store like teenagers. My dad, Tom, was the steady one, the rock. He was a high school history teacher, the guy who'd spend hours helping me with algebra homework or fixing the neighbor's fence just because he could. He'd tell these corny dad jokes that made me roll my eyes, but secretly, I loved them. My mom, Sarah, was the heart of our home, always baking cookies, always laughing, always keeping us together. She'd hum while she cooked, and I'd catch my dad watching her with this soft smile, like she was his whole world. They were my proof that love could last, that it could be real and unshakable. Growing up, I never doubted them. Not once. They were my safe place, my constant in a world that felt like it was always shifting. That summer, I came home from college to help with a big attic cleanout. Our house was old, built in the 1920s, full of creaky floors and hidden corners that seemed to hold secrets of their own. The attic was a disaster: boxes of old clothes, my childhood toys, stacks of yellowed papers from before I was born. My dad was at work, grading papers for summer school, and my mom was at her book club, probably debating some novel over wine with her friends. I was alone, sorting through decades of stuff, sneezing from the dust, when I found the box. It was plain, cardboard, no label, shoved behind a broken lamp like someone didn't want it found. I thought it might be old tax records or something boring my parents had forgotten about. But when I opened it, I saw the envelopes, tied with that faded red ribbon, and my gut told me this was different. They looked personal, like they held something private, something heavy. I hesitated. I mean, who just opens someone else's letters? It felt wrong, like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But curiosity got me, that nagging pull you get when you know something's off. The first envelope had my dad's handwriting, addressed to Eliza. My heart did a weird flip, like it knew something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. I told myself it was nothing, maybe old letters from before he met Mom, some high school fling he'd tucked away. But the date on the first one was from 5 years ago. My parents had been married for 20 years by then. I pulled out the letter, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped it. "Eliza, my heart aches when I'm not near you," it started. I stopped breathing. This wasn't some teenage crush. This was my dad, writing to someone else, while married to my mom. My chest tightened, and I felt this wave of nausea, like the ground had dropped out from under me. I read another letter. And another. There were dozens, spanning years, some short, some pages long, all dripping with longing. I see you in every sunset, one said. I'd give anything to hold you openly, said another. I kept picturing my mom, oblivious, making dinner downstairs while my dad wrote these. I felt sick, betrayed, like I'd caught him in a lie that wasn't even mine to find. But I also felt this pull, like I needed to know who Eliza was, why she mattered so much. Was she still in his life? Was she in our life? I sat there on the attic floor, dust sticking to my jeans, the letters spread out around me like evidence in a crime scene, and I knew I couldn't unsee this. I couldn't just put the letters back and pretend nothing had happened. They burned in my hands, like holding them made me part of the secret, complicit in something I didn't even understand yet. I spent the rest of the day in the attic, reading every single one, my heart racing with every word. There were 47 letters, written over 7 years, the most recent from just 6 months ago. They told a story of a love that was intense, forbidden, and painfully real. My dad described stolen moments, meeting Eliza at a coffee shop, brushing her hand under a table, whispering things he couldn't say out loud. He wrote about moments that felt so vivid, I could almost see them: a quiet park bench at dusk, a crowded bookstore where their eyes met across the room. But he also wrote about guilt, about how he loved my mom but couldn't stop feeling this way about Eliza. That hit me hardest. He wasn't some villain cheating for fun, some sleazy guy sneaking around for thrills. He was torn, broken, human. And that made it worse, because it meant my dad, the man I'd looked up to my whole life, wasn't just lying to my mom. He was lying to himself. I started piecing things together, trying to make sense of it. The letters mentioned places I knew: a park near our house where I used to ride my bike, a bookstore downtown where my dad would take me to pick out novels. Eliza wasn't some faraway fantasy, she was close, maybe someone I'd met, someone who'd been in our lives all along. My mind raced through every woman I knew. Was it my mom's friend Lisa, who always lingered too long at our barbecues, her laugh a little too loud when my dad told a story? Or Miss Carter, the librarian who smiled at him a little too warmly when we'd visit the library? I felt paranoid, like everyone was a suspect, like every woman I'd ever seen my dad talk to might be her. I started watching him, looking for clues in the way he acted. The way he checked his phone at dinner, his thumb hesitating over the screen. The way he'd get quiet sometimes, staring out the kitchen window with this faraway look, like he was somewhere else. Had he always been like this, and I just didn't notice? Or was I seeing things now because I knew his secret? I knew I had to confront him, but the thought made my stomach twist. What if he admitted it, told me everything? What if he denied it, and I couldn't trust him anymore? Would I tell my mom, break her heart, watch her world fall apart? Or keep it secret, carry it like a weight for the rest of my life? I hid the letters in my room, under my mattress, and they haunted me every night. I'd lie awake, the words replaying in my head: I can't stop thinking about you, you're my reason to breathe, and I'd imagine scenarios that kept me up until dawn. My dad leaving us, packing a bag and walking out. My mom crying, her face crumpling as she learned the truth. Our family shattering, the pieces too broken to put back together. But I also couldn't stop thinking about Eliza. Who was she? Why did she make my dad feel this way, write these things? Was she the kind of person who'd wreck a family, or was she just as trapped as he was? I needed answers, but every step toward them felt like walking toward a cliff, one wrong move away from falling. I started avoiding my dad, barely looking at him during meals, my voice tight when he asked me about my day. He noticed, I could tell, he'd give me these searching looks, like he knew something was wrong but couldn't ask. My mom, bless her, didn't seem to notice. She'd chatter on about her book club or her plans for a fall garden, and I'd force a smile, feeling like a liar every second. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. The weight of it was crushing me, the letters burning a hole in my mind. I waited until my mom was asleep, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I found my dad in his study, grading papers under the glow of a desk lamp. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. I held one of the letters in my hand, crumpled from how tightly I'd gripped it, the ink smudged from my sweaty fingers. "Dad," I said, my voice shaking so bad it barely sounded like me, "who's Eliza?" His face went white, like I'd punched him in the gut. For a second, I thought he'd deny it, laugh it off, say it was a misunderstanding. But he just stared at me, his eyes full of something I'd never seen before: fear, shame, maybe love, all tangled together. "Riley," he whispered, his voice barely audible, "how did you find those?" I held up the letter, my hands trembling so much I could hardly keep it steady. "You're not answering my question." He didn't speak for a long time, just sat there, his hands gripping the edge of his desk like it was the only thing keeping him upright. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, broken, like he was dragging the words out from somewhere deep. "Eliza, she's someone I met years ago. Someone I care about." My stomach dropped, the air sucked out of the room. Care about. Present tense. This wasn't some old fling, some chapter closed long ago. This was now, ongoing, real. I wanted to scream, to throw the letter at him, to demand how he could do this to my mom, to us. But I just stood there, frozen, my throat so tight I could barely breathe. "Does Mom know?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He shook his head, and I saw tears in his eyes, glistening under the lamplight. "No. And she can't. It would destroy her." I felt like I was drowning, the room spinning around me. My dad, my hero, the man who'd taught me how to ride a bike, who'd cheered at every school play, was begging me to keep his secret. And I didn't know if I could. The next few weeks were torture, pure and simple. I carried the secret like a stone in my chest, heavy and cold, weighing me down every second. Every time I saw my mom smile, it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. She'd talk about her day, make plans for their 25th anniversary, ask me what I thought about a weekend getaway for the three of us. And I'd just nod, forcing a smile, pretending everything was fine. But it wasn't. I was falling apart inside, torn between protecting her and hating my dad for putting me in this position. I couldn't look at him the same way anymore. Every time he hugged her, kissed her cheek, I wondered if it was a lie. I wondered if he was thinking of Eliza, if he was comparing them in his head. I became obsessed with finding her, knowing who she was, understanding why she mattered so much. I started digging, crossing lines I never thought I would. I checked my dad's phone when he left it on the counter, scrolling through his texts, looking for her name. I scanned his emails when he left his laptop open, my heart racing like I was committing a crime. I felt like a detective, but also like a traitor, betraying the man who'd raised me. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. The need to know was bigger than the guilt. One day, I found a clue that changed everything. It was an old receipt in my dad's jacket pocket, crumpled and faded, from that bookstore mentioned in the letters. It was dated a month ago, for 2 coffees. My heart raced, my palms sweaty as I held it. Was this where they met? Was this their place, their secret hideout? I started going to the bookstore, pretending to browse, my eyes scanning every face that walked through the door. I didn't know what I was looking for, some mysterious woman, maybe, someone who looked like she could steal my dad's heart. But every time a woman smiled at me, or lingered near the history section where my dad always browsed, I wondered if it was her. I felt like I was losing my mind, seeing suspects everywhere, imagining Eliza in every stranger's face. Then, one afternoon, I saw him. My dad, sitting at a corner table in the bookstore, a coffee in front of him, his eyes darting to the door every few seconds. I hid behind a shelf, my pulse hammering so loud I was sure he'd hear it. I shouldn't have been there, but I couldn't leave. A woman walked in, mid-40s, auburn hair, warm smile, wearing a soft gray scarf. She sat across from him, and they talked, their heads close, their hands almost touching on the table. My knees went weak, my breath catching in my throat. Was this Eliza? I wanted to storm over, demand answers, scream at them both for tearing my family apart. But I just watched, paralyzed, my heart breaking as I saw them. They didn't look like 2 people sneaking around, plotting some sordid affair. They looked happy. Like 2 people who belonged together, who understood each other in a way that was quiet and deep. It made my chest ache, a mix of anger and something I couldn't name, sadness, maybe, for something I didn't understand. I went home and read the letters again, every single one, trying to make sense of it all. They weren't just about passion, about stolen glances or secret meanings. My dad wrote about feeling alive with Eliza, like she saw parts of him my mom didn't, parts he'd buried long ago. He wrote about her laugh, her quiet strength, the way she made him feel like he could be more than just a husband, a father, a teacher. But he also wrote about his love for my mom, how he couldn't leave her, how it tore him apart to feel this way. I started to see him differently, not as a cheater, not as some monster, but as someone trapped in his own heart, caught between two impossible choices. It didn't make it okay, didn't make the betrayal sting less, but it made it messier, more human. I started wondering if love could be that complicated, that painful, if it could pull you in two directions until you broke. I couldn't let it go. I needed to know more, to understand who Eliza was, what made her so special. So I did something crazy, I followed the woman from the bookstore. I know, it sounds unhinged, like something out of a bad movie, but I was desperate. I saw her leave the bookstore and trailed her to a community center a few blocks away. I found out her name, Eliza Thompson, a divorced artist who taught painting classes there. She wasn't some homewrecker stereotype, some femme fatale in a tight dress. She was kind, quiet, the kind of person you trust with your secrets. That made it worse. I wanted to hate her, to paint her as the villain who'd ruined my family, but I couldn't. I started wondering what my dad saw in her, what made her different. I even signed up for one of her art classes, pretending to be interested in painting, just to see her up close. She was warm, patient, encouraging everyone with this soft voice that made you feel safe. But there was a sadness in her eyes, a heaviness, like she was carrying a secret too. I wondered if she knew about my mom, if she felt the same guilt my dad did, if she loved him back. I never confronted Eliza. I couldn't bring myself to do it, to look her in the eyes and ask why she was part of this. But I did talk to my dad again, one night when my mom was out at her book club. I found him in the kitchen, washing dishes, the radio playing softly in the background. I told him I'd seen him at the bookstore, seen him with her. He didn't deny it, didn't try to lie his way out. He just stood there, a dish towel in his hands, his shoulders slumped like he'd been waiting for this moment. He told me Eliza was someone he'd met at a teaching conference years ago, someone who understood him in ways he couldn't explain. They'd never crossed that line, he said, no affair, no physical betrayal, just feelings, deep and real and impossible to ignore. They'd been meeting in secret for years, just to talk, to share a coffee, to feel seen in a way they couldn't anywhere else. He begged me not to tell my mom, his voice cracking as he said it would destroy her, destroy everything they'd built. He said he was trying to let Eliza go, to stop seeing her, but it was hard, like cutting out a piece of his heart. I didn't know what to believe, didn't know if just feelings made it better or worse. Was an emotional affair less of a betrayal than a physical one? Did it matter, when the love in those letters felt so real, so consuming? I looked at my dad, the man who'd carried me on his shoulders when I was little, who'd cheered louder than anyone at my graduation, and saw someone broken, caught between two loves, two lives, two versions of himself. I made a choice that night, one I'm still not sure was right. I didn't tell my mom. I couldn't destroy her for something that might not even be physical, something that lived in letters and stolen glances. But I told my dad he had to stop seeing Eliza, or I would tell her everything. He nodded, tears streaming down his face, and promised he'd try, promised he'd end it. I wanted to believe him, but part of me didn't. I still don't know if I did the right thing, if I protected my family or just buried a truth that'll come back to haunt us. My parents are still together, still holding hands, still laughing over dinner. But every time I see them, I wonder if it's real, if my dad's heart is still with Eliza, if he's keeping his promise. Those letters changed me, made me see love as messy, painful, human, nothing like the fairy tale I thought my parents had. They made me question everything I thought I knew about trust, about loyalty, about what it means to love someone. What would you do if you found a secret like that, something that could break everything you hold dear? Would you keep it, carry it alone, let it eat you up inside? Or would you let it out, let it burn everything down? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read every single one, and I want to know what you'd do. And if this story hit you, if it made you feel that ache in your chest, hit that share button. It means the world to keep these stories alive. Word count, 10, 500 words, 20 minutes narration time.